question 4, it says the table shows the input and output from a machine with two operations. And we can see the table is completely filled. The input numbers are in order. They're going from 5, 10, 15, so they're going up by 5s. The outputs are there, and the outputs are starting at 15 and then going up by 25 each time. So they're going up by 25. That's the inputs. That's a hint to us. It's a hint that this is probably a multiplying in the first operation. Doesn't really tell us what it's multiplied by yet. I'm going to redo that one, make it smaller. But if we just kind of use our heads here and think, well, multiplying by 25, man, that is a really big number. 5 times 25 is 125. Let's see if that will work. First input of 5, multiply by 25, that gives me 125. And then my output is 15. I'm going to have a really big number to subtract. It's 110. Minus 110 would give me 15. Let's try it with the second input. 10. 10 times 25 is 250. And 250 minus 110 is going to give me a really big output. It's going to give me an output of 140. So I've just kind of disproved something. I've proved that it's not a times 25 machine. It's going to have to be a lot smaller. So let's use a little bit of logic here. And let's try a times 5 machine. It's a lot smaller. It's a multiple of 5, and that, the inputs are going up by 5, and I'm just using that as a, it's not really a guide. I'm just kind of guessing here. Definitely it's not a times 25. So let's do this, and the first output is 15. So 5 times 5 is 25, and if I subtract 10, I'll get 15. Let's check with the second input of 10. 10 times 5 is 50, and 50 minus 10 is 40, and voila, I have just figured out my machine. It's going to be a times 5 minus 10 machine. Alright, so it says in question B, choose 4 different input numbers and find the output. Well, you can extend your chart. That's an easy way. So the inputs are going up by 5, so that means the next input should be 30, and then 35, and then 40, and then 45. The outputs are going up by 25, so you just add 25 to each. So 115 plus 25 is going to be 140. And then 165, I'm adding 25. And then 180, is that 180? Oh boy, come on Mr. Mackey. Let's do it. If I can't figure it out in my head, what's the best way? Put it on paper. 5 plus 5 is 10. You carry the 1. We've got 7. That means we got 190. Get rid of that because I can erase really fast on my smartboard. And then the next one, 25 plus that, well, that's going to be 215. You don't believe me? Well, let's do the math. 0 plus 5 is 5. 9 plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1. 215. Alright, sometimes I can do it in my head if I'm confident, but if I'm not confident, then I put it down on paper. So we've answered question B. And then it says write the pattern rule that relates the input to the output. This is when you look at the operations in your machine. So the first operation is multiply. Times 5 is multiply by 5, so that's what we're going to do. Multiply, that's what we will write, I mean. Multiply the inputs by 5, and then I'm going to subtract 10. And then it says predict the output when the input is 60. Well, if you're really going to predict, that means you can't do any calculations. You're supposed to, in your head, try and figure it out or guess. So 60 is going to be, well, 45, 50, 60. That means 2 more. All right, so I'm going to increase the inputs 2 more. So if the outputs are going up by 25, that would be 2 more 25s, right? And 2 25s is 50. So I'm going to say 215 plus 50. I'm going to say 265. Sorry, 265. That's my prediction. Just using my whatever quick math in my head. But how can I check it? Well, I could extend my chart, or I could use my machine. So that's really what I'm going to try and do. All right, so if it's 60, maybe I did the wrong calculation. 45, 50, 55. It's 3. Boy, Mr. Mackey, you got to double check your what you're talking about. So it's going to be more than what I just wrote down there. It's going to be 25 more. Let's say 285. That's my guess. We're raising the inputs by 3. The outputs go up by 25, so that should be 75 more. Did I do that right, or is it 290? Okay, I'm going to guess 290. But I can always check. And I'm going to check by putting it in the machine. So if I have 60, I'm using the machine up here in question A. 60 times 5 is 180. Wait, it's 300. Mr. Mackey. 60 times 5 is 300, and 300 minus 10 is 290. Alright, so I've just checked it. So, yes, it works. And how did I check? I used the machine. I used the machine to check. And as you can see, it's not a simple process to predict. You have to kind of think carefully and slowly. I'm not going so slowly here because I'm trying to make the video as short as possible, but I didn't. But I did figure it out in the end. And I checked it out with the machine. I ran the numbers through the machine.